Hello, fellow TV heads. It's me again, and I decided to do this series entitled Let's Talk About Television because television has played such a huge part in the evolution of me as a storyteller. I often say that, or I used to say anyway, that television was or is my boyfriend. And I used to say that because it took me on a number of emotional highs. And it also took me on a number of emotional lows. Anyway, so grab some popcorn, grab your favorite drink, grab a notebook if you need that. Because I'm gonna kind of break down my television watching process, and you're either gonna think I'm completely insane or you're gonna think I'm a genius. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about television. Well, hopefully you've gotten comfortable. You've gotten what you need to drink, what you need to eat, to snack on. Because after all, this is a television vlog or vlog. Is it a vlog? I'm not really sure. I guess it's a television vlog, but so let's get into the process of how I watch television, which I know for some is going to be completely insane. So, the first thing I'm going to say is you never have to worry about me spoiling anything for you because I am never caught up on any shows. I devour shows like I devour books, like multiples at a time. I don't like watching one thing at a time, and I hate binge watching. Like, there are certain shows that I have in the past binged watch, and I think the thing that I hate about binge watching is it always ends, and then I have to wait until the next week or the next season for the show to resume, and I hate that. But I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum because I often find myself way behind in series. And so people in my family laugh at me. My ex-boyfriend used to laugh at me because of the way I watch TV. But the funny thing about him laughing at me is now he watches television in a similar way that I watch television. So that makes me laugh. Go figure. So before I go off on a tangent, let's talk about my TV watching process. And try to hold your judgment until after I've explained why I watch television in the way that I do. So I recently switched my process, but what I used to do is watch maybe 15 minutes or even as long as a commercial. Like, I would watch an episode through to a commercial, and then I would switch to a new show, watch that for the same length of time, and so on and so forth until I eventually finished an episode. So what I do now is I do continue to watch an entire episode before I switch episodes, but I do it by I still only watch one episode of each show that I'm watching at a time. Which means that I get the best of both worlds because I get to watch different shows I never end up really going through a show too quickly. And I guess those are the two things that are benefits for me personally, because like I said, I don't really like when shows end. So the next major part of my process is I have list. Yes, I said list of shows that I watch in no particular order, but what I do is I group shows in groups of 5 and I number them. So currently I have 2 lists. One that's a list from that has, okay, so each group has 5 shows, but it starts at 1 and it ends at 100. So 1 would have 5 shows underneath it, 2 would have 5 shows underneath it, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. And I have another list that continues at 101 and goes through, I think right now I'm currently at 135 on that particular list. And I just go through and I watch them. So I'm currently trying to get rid of the numbering system and just group all the shows in one big, like, clump. And I think that's going to make watching TV a little more streamlined for me. I know this is a lot. Bear with me. So the next part of the process, and probably the most important and the last of the process, I will say, is organization. Of course, you have to have a way to organize your shows and make sure that you remember what episodes you've watched and what episodes, you still have to watch and things like that. So my system is I use this app on my phone called TV Time. I believe it's called TV Time. And it's an app on your phone, and it has every show that you could possibly think of, new and old, listed on this website. And it's pretty streamlined, and what it allows you to do is search shows, put them onto like your watch list, and then you can also track them. So you can mark off each episode as you watch it, and I have always had some sort of TV tracker. So in the beginning, I used to use Sidereel, and I used it on my computer. It was another tracking kind of, it wasn't an app, it was more like a website. And it's still around, like people still use it to track their shows, but I wanted something that was on my phone that I could access that was a little bit easier. So that is the last part of my process. If you're still here and I haven't scared you away, then let's move on. So, now that we've unwoven, here I go with my word usage. I'm sorry. This is funny to me. Anyway, now that we've unwoven that big ball of weird and crazy, I want to take a moment to talk about why story in television is so important to me. So, television has been in my life for as long as I can remember, and one of the shows that impacted me the most was Wonder Woman with Linda Carter. I actually refer to my Wonder Woman obsession in Unmasked, which is really funny as I'm telling Simone's story, because she was huge for me. Linda Carter, her power, her femininity, her everything was everything to me at that time in my life, even though I didn't even realize why. So anyway, that was my first real introduction to television and telling a story in television. So being a child of the 80s, Wonder Woman was huge for me. But I didn't watch a lot of TV growing up that I can remember that impacted me in the same way. So the next big like jump in television for me was probably the when I was living in New Jersey and I found myself with a lot of time on my hands, and I remember starting to watch the show Dexter. Now, if you're not familiar with Dexter, Dexter is kind of a vigilante killer, but he's a forensic scientist also, which is really funny because he's in essence a serial killer that builds the whole premise of the show is that he kills off people that he deems to be bad. So make that make sense. But the seasons that I did watch, because I never finished Dexter. I started it, I don't think I ever finished it. I have the first season on DVD because it was my first like real awakening to what character development and TV could become. And the character of Dexter was genius because he was like this juxtaposition of like a villain, but also like a bad, what you would consider a bad guy. And I loved the, I think it was probably the first 3 seasons of Dexter that I watched. Then there came shows like Sex and the City and Friends, which introduced me personally to the power of storytelling. Then there were things like Breaking Bad, which was so well written, which I never finished watching, but it's so well written. And also The Walking Dead, which was also pretty well written, that were really huge impacts for me. But the reason why story in television became so important to me is because I realized how it can evoke certain emotions in you, just like a book can. And then but you also have the visual to go along with it. And having the visual to go along with it sometimes is more impactful than when you're reading a book. But sometimes, not all the time, the words in a book are so impactful that you can paint the picture in your head of exactly what things are supposed to be in a specific world. And TV just became like an escape, which it is for a lot of people, but it became an escape for me in a different way because I found myself in New Jersey going through a lot of hard times, and it would allow me to escape into the stories of these people just like I would escape into books. But it also showed me the importance of character development, because characters, if you have a long running series, have to, or in my opinion, these are just my opinions, remember, they have to evolve and they have to change. And I think that's why I love television series so much more than I love movies, because movies are like this 2 or 3 hours that you sit there where they tell this epic story over, a course of time. And some movies have been done really well to where like it's almost like watching a series. But series for me hold a special place in my heart because especially if they are a long running series, have the opportunity to make the characters more real for the audience by developing great character arcs and making the characters more human in the way that they make decisions. So in conclusion, story in television taught me how to character develop and also to have an arc of a character that made sense. Um, but I have a caveat to that, because there are some shows that go off on a complete tangent after a few seasons. Like, the first couple of few seasons will be good, and then you get to like seasons like 5 and 6, if they're a long running season or a long running show, and they get kind of goofy and crazy, and the characters start to do things that you're like, huh? Would they really do that? Um, and I do have to say that Shonda Rhimes is one of my favorite show creators. I know there's people that will boo me for that, and I don't care, because I love Shonda Rhimes. I think that she's a genius for what she did with Grey's Anatomy. The character development and the story arcs of the characters in freaking Grey's Anatomy was amazing. But that is what I have learned about great shows, is that they not only have a great story, but they have great arcs and they have great character development, and that has helped me immensely in telling stories in my books. So this is probably the portion of this vlog that you thought that you came here for. And that is the part where I actually talk about the television shows that I watched this week. So, because of the way that I watch television shows, I don't really like to, I'm not really going to sit here and talk a whole lot about the shows themselves. But I will, give my insight about the episodes that I watched. So let's start with Married at First Sight Australia. So I really enjoy Married at First Sight Australia, because even though we have Married at First Sight here in the States, Married at First Sight done there is probably what our Married at First Sight would be if we weren't looking for the ratings. I really do think that the experts try to match them up with people that they can build lasting bonds with. But the one thing that I've learned about Married at First Sight is that people are in life in general, really, is that people are unpredictable, and so you can put someone with someone who is perfect for them, and if they are in their own way, they will not see what's right in front of them. And that is the problem that I see in a lot of the seasons of Married at First Sight, whether it be in America or in Australia. So the only problems that I'm seeing, I'm going to talk about the problems that I'm seeing with some of the couples in this particular season, is that there's one couple where on the wedding day, one of the bride's friends comes to her and tells her that she knows something about him, that he was secretly seeing someone before he came onto the show, and he told this young lady that he was going to be with her after the show was over. Come to find out, in this episode that I watched this week, the girl only told her that because she was upset that she wasn't made a bridesmaid in the wedding. And this is the kind of petty, drama-filled crap that is involved in reality television, so-called reality television. We all know that it's scripted reality. So anyway, that's my opinion about that particular couple. Then there's another couple where there is a guy who basically has a list. We all know where list got me, so you can imagine where this list has gotten him. So he's already annoyed with his wife because she loves moonstones and astrology, and those are two of the things on his list that give him the ick, is what he calls it. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So they're on their honeymoon now. Apparently he shushed her on the plane, and so now they're in a big tiff. So now the couples that I love on this season, there is an Indian young woman who has basically defied her family and married a guy named Dan, and they are beautiful. I didn't know how it was going to go, but I really hope that they survive. There's another couple where the woman has cystic fibrosis, I believe, and I believe that her groom, his mom died of cystic fibrosis, and so they kind of relate in that way. They're another great couple, and I pretty much think that's it for the couples that I like. So I'm gonna stop that there. So the next show that I watched this week was The Masked Singer. And the crazy thing about this one is that it's in its 9th season. And I remember when it first started, so I don't know if they do like double seasons of this show throughout the years, but I know it did not start 9 years ago, unless I'm just completely off the charts crazy, which don't answer that. But this show, I don't know for how much longer it's going to stick around, because the whole premise of this show is that they have celebrities come in and sing songs every week. And it's a competition show, yes, but it's also like this big reveal when they reveal who the celebrity is under these lavish costumes. And they must spend billions of dollars on these costumes, because these costumes are elaborate and they're sometimes kooky and crazy. But in this season, the Medusa character is the one who is stealing the show. And in this episode, she steals the show again. Her voice is kind of like raspy, and like she does this crazy acrobatics with her voice. And I don't know who she is. I'm going to just say that. I don't know who she is. They did reveal who the Night Owl was, and that was surprising. I'm not going to tell you who, just in case you haven't watched it. And then I can't remember who else was on. There was a crab also, which ended up being another celebrity that they revealed. And I wasn't really shocked by the reveal, but I kind of was, because I didn't know who that was either. And that was pretty much it for this episode. So I don't really have much else to say about this show, except for I'm not really sure how long they can sustain this, because there are only so many celebrities in the world. It's kind of like Dancing with the Stars. I don't know how it's been on for 30 plus seasons. It's crazy. But anyway, so the next show is The Flash. And there have been so many different incarnations of The Flash. I think there's at least one I can think of, so maybe not that many. But this one's interesting in the fact that, well, I don't know. Well, this season, because I'm in the 2nd season. This was the 11th episode, and the villain in this particular, there's 2 villains in this particular season. There is Zoom, and then there is the Reverse Flash, who is supposed to be the antithesis of the Flash. And the problem I have with these kind of like niche stories is that there is no room for the character to be something else. Like, they're kind of locked in. The Flash is a superhero. He's kind of locked into that. There's not much that he can change. It's kind of like in these stories, the superhero's life is controlled by the fact that he is a superhero and that he has to keep it a secret. And I have a huge problem with those stories, because they usually take too long to reveal to the people around them that they are the superhero. They usually have a number of relationships that crumble because they don't want to put people in danger. So they're pretty much loners throughout their entire existence. And they very rarely rely on anyone, and it's like this, I guess they call it an archetype that they build for superheroes, and I think it kind of keeps them kind of in a niche, and like to write outside of that, I don't know if anybody can. And in this particular episode, he faces off with his nemesis, the Reverse Flash. He captures him. He has to let him go because of one of the other characters possibly dying if he doesn't. And he also, at the same time, has to release his relationship because the girl that he's dating is a detective. She does figure out that he is the Flash, but he doesn't want to put her in harm's way, even though she's a detective and she's a cop and she can probably protect herself. But then again, maybe not, because they also have these metahumans taking over the city, so maybe not. But anyway, so that's my opinion about The Flash and that particular episode. The next two shows on my list are not shows that I had originally on my list, but I knew. One of them's pretty old, but the other one is newer, and it is a part of a series of shows that they've started on OWN. So the first show is Love and Marriage Detroit. And all I can say about this one is the premise of the original show and the shows that followed, because the original one was Love and Marriage Huntsville, and then now there is a Love and Marriage DC and a Love and Marriage Detroit, which is the newest installment in this particular reality series. And I don't really connect with any of the couples in this show. They're all from Detroit. They're all African American couples who have a certain status in Detroit, and they're really boring. I think that's kind of the only thing I can say about them, is that they're kind of boring, and I feel like the husbands act as if these women they're still living in the 1950s, and they want these traditional wives, and these wives are the furthest thing from that. And I don't think any husband should expect his wife to live like wives did in the 1950s, because we're not like that. So if you're looking for a traditional wife, then find that, but don't marry someone who you know is not traditional and then expect them to be traditional. So it's just a really weird dynamic with all of these couples, and they're honestly boring and honestly just not my cup of tea. And there's already a lot of drama in the couples. One husband did not tell his wife that he was going off to seminary school to become a priest, which is just crazy to me. How do you not discuss something like that with your wife? And then the other guy that I have a huge problem with is he basically, I guess, his wife said that he emotionally cheated. I kind of feel like there was more to the story than what she said, like that he actually did cheat. And he treats her like she's clingy and needy, when in reality he did something wrong, and I don't know that he's taken full responsibility for it. And then on top of that, add to that he signed on a new artist, which is a woman, and because he's a music producer, and kind of like he owns his own studio and all this stuff, and he's brought on this new artist and he didn't tell her. So there's just things about their relationship that make no sense to me. And then the third couple is the wife is a doctor, and she's a successful business owner. She created wine. It's like she calls it upscale wine. I don't know how wine becomes upscale, or she might not have used the word upscale, but it's crazy. And then her husband has kind of helped her, and he's another music producer who and their marital problems are that he ran off to Atlanta for this big opportunity with Marvel and Disney to produce music for them, I guess. And she got left at home with the children and basically gave him an ultimatum that if he didn't come back, that they would no longer have a marriage. So this whole show is a entire bowl of crazy. And if I'm saying that, then you know it's crazy. So the last and final show for this week was Extreme Cheapskates. Now, Extreme Cheapskates, I believe, was originally on TLC. I found it on YouTube. It popped up in my feed, and I decided to watch it because I remember back in the day I wanted to watch it and I never did. And this show is beyond crazy. Like, there is a guy who literally will not spend any money. He's married, but he doesn't spend any money. Like, he buys everything on sale. He and his wife, in the episode, the first episode, they celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary, and he brings her flowers from the trash. When they go out to eat, he takes people's food, like their leftover food, and takes it home as leftovers, which is kind of, disgusting. And he brought her trash flowers. He brought her a box of animal crackers, a bottle of water, and then like this squishy skull head where the eyes popped out for their 25th wedding anniversary. Make that make sense. And then there was another guy who, he and his wife, they go on a fiscal fast every year, and which they don't spend any money the entire week. That they have this fiscal fast. And so he, at the end of their fiscal fast, decided he was going to ride for I think it took him about 20 minutes to ride his bike from their home to town, and he was digging for change to buy what he said was going to be a special dinner to celebrate the end of their fiscal fast. And my mind was blown because he went to the butcher, he got 2 goat heads, and that's what he made for dinner. His wife absolutely refused to eat it. She refuses to eat most of his food. And he also brought home lint from the dryer, like the dryer lint, to light a fire. My mind was just like, what? It like paused for a minute. Then on the second episode, there was this lady, Kate, and she was basically digging food out of the trash. She would go to what she called expensive grocery stores, and she would dig through the trash, the food, and pull out food from the trash. This woman is a money manager by day. She hadn't bought clothes in 8 years, which, I can relate to sometimes because I can go long periods of time without buying clothes. But the part I had a hard time wrapping my head around was the digging in the trash for food. Then she invited guests over, and she made them eat her dumpster dived food and didn't tell them until after they started eating it. This is a judgment-free zone, but I'm judging right now, and I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, not sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry. So that's all. I'm ending it there. So I'm ending this vlog in the same place that I began, in bed. See? Can you see? Because I love watching television in bed. I know there's science proven against it, and people take TVs out of their room in order to get better sleep. I have tried everything to get better sleep, and I still don't sleep through the night. So there's got to be something else going on. So if you have any idea what else I can do besides getting my TV out of my room to help me sleep, please let me know. Like I said from the beginning, I wanted to do these vlogs not only because television is a huge part of my life, but also because I want to talk about shows with you. I want to know what you're watching. I want to know what you recommend. I want to know what you want me to do a review on. And believe me, I watch everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything, because there's a lot of stuff out there. I watch it all. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. I watch it because I want to know what good storytelling is. To draw back to my point, what good storytelling is, what good character development is, what good story arcs are in my own stories. So that's what I use television for. So anyway, I hope that you join me for the second vlog next week, where I will talk about character development and why character development in television is important to me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this vlog. I hope that you will return next week and that I haven't scared you away. And if I have, I love you anyway. And I wish you all the best. And I'm going to sign off now. And I will see you with another Let's Talk About Television vlog next week. Enjoy your Sunday and enjoy your entire week, creatives. Bye for now.